Korean Philosophy, Chapter 1, Thought of Wonhyo. Wonhyo was a representative Buddhist thinker and practitioner of the Silla dynasty around the AD 7th century, a figure who laid the foundation for Korean Buddhist thought. Alongside deep scholarly research, he walked the path of spreading the Dharma among the people and practicing it in daily life. In Buddhism, Dharma means rule and laws leading to nirvana, namely extinction of the self. Wonhyo was not only Buddhistic transcendent but also human worldly. He broke the rule of Buddhism. He had an affair with a woman, Princess Yosok in Silla dynasty. The meeting between Wonhyo and the Princess Yosok is traditionally regarded as a symbolic event representing his attempt to practice Buddhism within the secular world. Princess Yosok, daughter of King Muyeol of Silla, was living as a widow. The king arranged for the great monk Wonhyo to form a relationship with her so they could have descendants. Thus, Wonhyo did not avoid the worldly ties, lived with Princess Yosok, and fathered the son Seolchong. Seolchong later gained renown as a great Confucian scholar and the inventor of the old Korean writing, that is Idu. Wonhyo's choice is interpreted not as a simple case of a monk violating monastic ties, but as a practice revealing that the Dharma is not severed from the secular world. He transcended the boundaries between monastic and lay life, demonstrating that Buddhism could be realized within the concrete realities of life. The core of Wonhyo's thought is a one-mind doctrine that is called ilsim in Korean language. One mind means that all existence and all truth ultimately originate from a single mind. The human mind is the very source of the world, and by truly understanding the mind, one can transcend conflict and opposition. After deeply studying various Buddhist doctrines, he explained the path that unites their differences through one mind. This led to the development of the Hwang, that is, harmonization of the contradictions doctrine. At that time, Buddhism was divided into numerous sects and doctrines, leading to incessant disputes. One saw that each revealed only a partial truth, but all ultimately led to one truth. He sought to reconcile differing teachings, transcending oppositions and exclusivity. This is an important spirit that connects to today's pluralism. Wonhyo's life also bore a practical character. While preparing to study in China, he gained profound enlightenment from an instant where he drank water poured in a skull along the road. It was the realization that truth lies not far away but within one's own mind. He subsequently abandoned his journey to China, choosing instead to spread the Dharma, the road to truth, among the people of Silla. He did not remain confined within temples but traveled through streets and villages, conveying the Dharma through song and dance. His song of freedom, called Muega, is a song that explains the Dharma in simple terms, emphasizing the path of unfettered freedom. Furthermore, Wonhyo showed an open attitude toward the other philosophies and beliefs besides Buddhism, instead of an attitude that Buddhism alone was absolutely correct. He sought harmony with the indigenous beliefs and other philosophies deeply rooted in Silla society at that time. This allowed Buddhism to spread more widely within Silla society. Wonhyo's historical significance lies not merely in academically exploring Buddhist doctrine, but in interpreting it to fit the lives and the realities of the common people. He presented an integrative philosophy transcending sectarian conflict and lived out the truth alongside people, putting it into practice. His thought determined the subsequent course of Korean Buddhism and remains meaningful even today, beyond the Goryeo and the Joseon period. Chapter 2. The Thought of Uisang. Uisang was a great master representing Silla era Buddhism and the founder of Korean Hwang thought. Hwang thought is a Buddhist worldview of a perfect unity and the boundless interconnectedness, where all beings are mutually dependent and interconnected as one. Hwang is usually used as a Hwang school in Chinese Buddhism. In Korea, Hwang school is called Hwamjong. Alongside Master Jajang, he traveled to Tang, China in his youth to study, and upon returning, greatly advanced Silla Buddhism. Notably, the temple he established, Busoksa, became the center of Hawaiian thought and profoundly influenced the deep-rooted currents of Korean Buddhism. Thereafter, the core of the Uisang thought is Hawaiian philosophy. Hawaiian teaches that all beings are intertwined. Nothing exists alone, but is intimately connected to the whole. Uisang expressed this as one is the whole and the whole is one. It means that the truth of the entire world is contained within a single speck of dust, and the entire Dharma realm is revealed within the smallest particle. This thought is explained through the concept of Dharma realm interdependence. Interdependence means all existence arises through mutual reliance. However, the interdependence spoken of in Hwang goes beyond simple causality. It carries a deeper meaning where everything simultaneously illuminates and reveals each other. Uisang expressed this concept visually through the Dharma nature diagram. Dharma nature diagram is a translation of 화엄 일성 법궤도 in Korean, and it is also called the ocean seal. In Buddhism, the ocean seal or ocean seal samadhi or samara mudra samadhi is a state of profound meditative absorption where the mind is like a calm deep ocean reflecting all phenomena clearly and without distortion, like a seal imprinting itself on the water's surface. This diagram, composed of the single circle, showed that an infinite world is contained within a single point. Eisang did not confine this philosophy to mere theory. He sought to apply the Avatamsaka teachings to daily life, politics, and society. Avatamsaka is identical with Huayan. Huayan is the Chinese school of Buddhism that was founded upon the teachings of the Avatamsaka Sutra. His disciples establishing temples throughout Silla and living closely among the people was an extension of this. In his writings to the king, he interpreted governance and the people's lives through the spirit of Avatamsaka, emphasizing the principles of harmony and mutual prosperity. Moreover, Eusang emphasized perfect harmony without obstruction in Korea speech 원융무애, in the path of Buddhist practice. This signifies a state where all things blend seamlessly without hindrance. It points to a realm where people and the people, the self and the world and the nature achieve a mutual harmony. This was not merely a religious enlightenment, but a philosophy capable of leading to a social harmony and peaceful living. Uisang's philosophy resonated profoundly within Shilla society. At that time, Shilla had achieved the unification of the three kingdoms and was in the process of establishing the order of a new nation. Amidst the conflicts between various regions and factions, the Hawaiian philosophy, which sought to unify and harmonize all things, took on significant political and social meaning. Uisang sought to guide national integration and peace through Buddhist teachings. Buddhism as original religion turned into political ideology. In this orientation, the Buddhistic thought of pure land took great role. Chapter 3. The Thought of Jinul. Jinul is the representative master who revitalized Buddhism during the Goryeo dynasty. Born in the 12th century and active in the 13th century, he deeply lamented the corruption of Buddhism, which had become entangled with power and profit. Thus, he advocated a return to Buddhism's original teachings, emphasizing genuine practice and enlightenment, and presented a new path for Korean Buddhism. His teachings later evolved into the Joge order, Jogejong in Korean, becoming the central tradition of Korean Buddhism. Jogejong is the most dominant school of Buddhism in Korea. At the core of the Jinul's thought lies the concept of sudden enlightenment and the gradual cultivation. It is called the Dono Jumsu in Korean. This is an original teachings explaining the relationship between enlightenment and the practice. Jinul believed enlightenment could be achieved in a single moment. True enlightenment is inherently present within the human mind, capable of being realized all at once in a single instant. However, attaining enlightenment does not immediately eradicate all afflictions and habitual tendencies. After enlightenment, sustained practice is necessary to manage long accumulated habits and attachments. Therefore, he saw enlightenment as a suddenly realized, but the subsequent cultivation gradually follows. This is the precisely sudden enlightenment gradual cultivation. Furthermore, Jinul emphasized the dual cultivation of samadhi and wisdom. Samadhi is the practice of the calming and the settling the mind, while wisdom is the cultivation of insight to realize the essence of things. He held that these two practices are not separate but must be cultivated together. If one leans solely towards calming the mind, wisdom does not grow. If one pursues wisdom alone, the mind cannot be stabilized. Therefore, Jinul taught that these two paths must be realized simultaneously, like two wings. Master Jinul also devoted himself to reforming the Buddhist community, criticizing the temples of his time for being entangled in power and profit. He initiated the Jeong Association movement, where the true practitioners gathered to live together. The Jeong Association, 정해 결사 in Korean language, was a practical gathering where members practiced and studied together with pure minds, aiming to restore Buddhism's original spirit. This movement became a major turning point in revitalizing Korean Buddhism, and later became the fundamental spirit of Korean Buddhism. Jinul demonstrated an attitude that encompassed both the doctrinal studies and the Sun. Sun is a Chan Buddhism or Zen Buddhism. In this history of Buddhism, two different ways of Buddhism came in being. They were the doctrinal school, Gyojong, and the meditation school, Sunjong. The doctrinal school, Gyojong, stresses scriptural study and philosophy, seeking enlightenment through knowledge and analysis. The meditation school, Sunjong, emphasized direct realization via meditation, holding that truth transcends words. At that time, within Buddhism, doctrinal studies focusing on scriptural research and the Sun emphasizing meditation practice were divided. Master Jinul did not separate the two but saw them as one. He stated that doctrinal studies are the lamp illuminating the path of practice, while Sun is the path to actualizing enlightenment. Thus, the two complement each other. In this way, he sought to integrate the various currents within Buddhism. Jinul's thought did not remain confined to internal Buddhist reform. His teachings instilled the conviction that the human mind is inherently pure and clear, the belief that everyone inherently possesses wisdom and Buddha nature and can reveal it through practice became a great source of strength for the oppressed people of his time. Furthermore, his emphasis on consistent practice and communal action still resonate deeply today. Chapter 4. Yi theory in Neo-Confucianism. The Yi theory in Neo-Confucianism is a fundamental doctrine that explains the nature of the universe and humanity through the two inseparable concepts, Li, that is principle, and Ki, that is material force. It was systematized by Jushi in China and deeply developed in Korea, especially during Joseon dynasty. Li, that is principle, is the universal law or patterns underlying all things. It is immaterial, eternal, and normative, representing order, harmony, and moral goodness. Human nature, for instance, is grounded in Li and thus inherently good. Ki, material force, by contrast, is the concrete substance or energy through which Li is realized. It is dynamic and variable, accounting for the differences and the imperfections found in the real world. Chusi stressed that Li and Ki are not separate entities but always exist together. Li does not exist apart from Ki. Ki cannot exist apart from Li. A tree, for example, grows according to the principle of life, Li, but requires soil, water, and energy, Ki. Thus, all beings emerge through the interaction of these two forces. In human beings, this theory has strong ethical implications. While one's original nature, based on Li, is good, moral flaws arise from the impurity or imbalance of Ki. Hence, self-cultivation means clarifying Li and harmonizing Ki to live a virtuous life. In Korea, scholars debated the relative role of Li and Ki. Hwang, 퇴계 emphasized the primacy of Li, while Yulgok argued for the dynamic priority of Ki. These debates shaped Korean Neo-Confucianism and influenced ethics, education, and governance. In short, the Yi-Li-Ki theory provides a comprehensive explanation of reality and morality, linking cosmic order with human responsibility. Chapter 5. Yi Hwang's Thought. Yi Hwang, commonly known as Taege, was a leading Neo-Confucian scholar of the Joseon dynasty. He was a great teacher who deeply explored and systematized Neo-Confucianism within 16th century Joseon society, uniting scholarship and personal virtue. He, his thought not only formed the core of Joseon Neo-Confucianism, but also holds a significant place in the history of Eastern Asian thought. The center of Yi Hwang's thought lies in the elucidating the relationship between principle Li and the vital force Gi. Yi Hwang thought of a theory of a mutual emergence of principle and material source. This is called the theory of 이기호발설 in Korean. 이 황제 theory of 이기호발설 addresses how principle Li and vital force Ki interact in the manifestation of human emotions. He argued that the moral principles are primary and can initiate emotions, while material force provides the physical basis through which emotions are expressed. For instance, when principle moves, the resulting emotions are pure and morally good. When material force moves, emotions can be mixed with selfish desires. His view emphasized the moral supremacy of principles and the need for the self-cultivation to guide emotions toward virtue, distinguishing his philosophy from other like key-based theories. He viewed all things as governed by the simultaneous action of a principle and a vital source. Principles refer to the essential truth of a thing, while vital source is its actual manifestation. He particularly emphasized the nobility of principles, maintaining that even when vital force become disordered, the original truths remain unchanged. In this regard, he established an academic stance centered on principle. His thought is described as the dualism of principle and vital source. This is the idea that principle and vital source are distinct yet act together. By prioritizing principle, he sought to clarify the moral standards that humans ought to follow. Principle is goodness itself, while vital source can sometimes be turbid, yet through proper cultivation, vital force can also be refined and purified. Hwang left profound reflections, particularly in the theory of human nature. He believed human nature, originating from principle, is inherently good. However, differences in vital energy can lead to varying expressions of a character. Therefore, while individuals' temperaments may differ, he emphasized that through self-cultivation, one can restore this original good nature. This was a philosophy underpinning the necessity of education and moral practice. He also presented significant views in the debate over the four virtues and the seven emotions. This is 사단 칠정론 in Korean. Four virtues are the four benevolent sentiments: compassion, shame, courtesy, and righteousness. The seven emotions are the seven feelings: joy, anger, sorrow, pleasure, love, hatred, and desire. Hwang held that the four virtues directly emanate from the principles and are always good, while the seven emotions arise from vital energy and thus contain both good and evil. However, he explained that the seven emotions could also be governed according to the principles of the original principles, and when properly regulated, they contribute to a moral human life. This was an important achievement that precisely clarified the relationship between human emotions and morality. Hwang viewed scholarship not as a mere accumulation of knowledge, but as a passive self-cultivation and practice. He placed reverence, that is Jeong in Korean, at the core of self-cultivation. Jeong means to gather the mind consistently and keep it upright without distraction. It was an attitude of constantly examining oneself in daily life, not neglecting propriety even in small matters, and steadfastly upholding a moral life. For Hwang, scholarship was the very passive life leading to self-reflection and self-cultivation. He also devoted himself to educating disciples, building a scholarly community centered around the Dosan Sewon in Andong. Many disciples who received his teachings carried forward the scholarly and the moral ethos of Joseon society. Hwang believed that through scholarship, society as a whole must establish proper order, transcending the moral perfection of the individual. Chapter 6. The Four Virtues and the Seven Emotion Debate. That is 사단 칠정론 in Korean and Confucianism in Joseon Dynasty. One of the most significant philosophical debates in Korean Neo-Confucianism was the Four Virtues and the Seven Emotion debate. That is 사단칠정론 in Korean. It centered on how to interpret human nature and emotions, shaping the intellectual character of Confucianism, the Joseon Dynasty. The four virtues, that is 사단, from Mencius of China, are compassion, shame, humility, and discernment of right and wrong. These are seen as moral sprouts, pure and inherently good. By contrast, the seven emotions, that is 칠정 in Korean, joy, anger, sorrow, fear, love, dislike, and desires, come from the Book of Rice, that is Yegi in Korean. They represent the natural human feelings, which can be good or evil depending on circumstances. Ihwang, that is 퇴계, 1501 to 1570, argued that the four virtues originate from Li, that is principle, and are always good, while the seven emotions arise from Qi, material force, which can be mixed with the good and evil. He explained this as the theory of principle and material force, activating separately, 이기호발설, stressing moral introspections and cultivation to purify one's Qi and reveal the goodness of Li. 이, that is 율곡, 1536 to 1584, criticized this sharp division. He held that both the four virtue and the seven emotions are human feelings that arise when Qi moves and Li accompanies, that is 기발 이성 일도. For him, the distinction was not in origin but in moral orientation. This view allowed a more integrated and realistic understanding of emotions, emphasizing moral action within ordinary life. The debate influenced the development of two major intellectual traditions in Joseon dynasty. Taegyedo school stresses inner moral cultivation and idealist tendencies, while Yulgok school emphasized practical reform, governance, and engagement within reality. Thus, the Sadan Chiljeong debate not only deepened the Neo-Confucian theory but also shaped contrasting direction of Joseon Confucianism. In conclusion, the four beginning and the seven emotion debate was more than an abstract argument. It became a foundation for ethics, politics, and education in Joseon dynasty, leaving a lasting impact on Korean philosophy by linking human emotions, moral self-cultivation, and the social order. Chapter 6, Yi is Thought. Yi, commonly known as Yulgo, was a leading Neo-Confucian scholar and politician of Middle Joseon dynasty. Alongside his scholarly depths, he showed great interest in practical reform, seeking concrete governance strategies grounded in Neo-Confucianism. His thought forms a crucial pillar of Joseon Neo-Confucianism and still resonates profoundly when reflecting on societal and personal issues today. The core of his thought is the theory of a unity of a principle of a vital force. In more detail, his theory is a theory of a pre-key post-il to be expressed. Pre-key post-il was named 기발 이성 일도 by Yi himself. Yi's doctrine of 기발 이성 일도 explains that material force key initiates all movements, while principle Li rise and guides them. He stressed their inseparable unity. Ki provides energy, E gives direction, together forming one path of moral and natural order. Whereas Hwang emphasized principle and explained the principle and the vital force as somewhat separate. Yi viewed them as inseparable and always coexisting. He explained that the principle and the vital force are intertwined and move together, and that all existing entities and phenomena in reality are formed by the combination of principle and vital force. Through this, he emphasized the harmony between principle and vital force, aiming for scholarship connected to concrete reality rather than dwelling on overly abstract logic. Another crucial theme in his thought is the theory of human nature. He argued with Hwang that human nature is inherently good. However, he believed that because each person's innate temperament and environment differ, the manifestation of this nature also varies. Therefore, he stresses that moral perfection is achieved through constant self-cultivation and education. He meticulously examined the relationship between nature and the temperament, particularly emphasizing the importance of education for a just society. He also presented the original views on the four virtues and the seven emotions. He explained that the four virtues and the seven emotions are not merely separate manifestation of principle and energy, but that the principle and energy act together within all emotions. This reflected an attitude seeking a more comprehensive and integrated understanding of human emotions. Furthermore, he placed great emphasis on reverence, that is, Jeong in Korean, in scholarship and self-cultivation. Reverence is the attitude of concentrating the mind to maintain proper focus without distraction. However, he viewed reverence not merely as a means of disciplining the mind, but as a fundamental attitude for solving actual social and political problems. That is, reverence was connected not only to personal self cultivation but also to social responsibility. What distinctly set Yi apart from other Neo-Confucian scholars was his practical political reforms theory. He did not view scholarship as a detached theory, but developed it into concrete plans for rectifying the nation. His representative proposal was the theory of raising 100,000 soldiers. He argued that sufficient military strength must be cultivated and the people protected to ensure national security. He also proposed various measures, including land system reform, talent cultivation, and educational system reform, dreaming of a fundamental reform for Joseon society. He particularly emphasized self-cultivation to govern others, that is, sugichiin in Korean. He believed that only after individuals achieve moral perfection can they rightly lead a society and the state. Therefore, scholarship must begin with self-cultivation, serving as the foundation for advancing towards proper politics and social reform. that is 율곡 in Korean, proposed 10,000 troops plans, urging Joseon to train 10,000 soldiers to defend against the Japanese invasion. Rooted in foresight and Confucian duty, his advice was ignored. Soon after his death, the Imjin War, that is naval warfare between Korea and Japan, proved his writing accurate, highlighting his strategic vision and concern for national security. Chapter 7. The Thought of Yakyong. Yakyong was a representative Shillak scholar at the late Joseon period, a great thinker whose influence spanned scholarship, thought, politics, and reform. In late Joseon dynasty, a practical science emerged, which is Shilhak. He used scholarship as a path to solving real-world problems and devoted his full energy to examining the lives of the common people. His thought is unique in that it did not remain merely theory but actively pursued reforms in actual politics and institutions. The goal of Jeong thought is the spirit of Shilhak, a practical science. He believed scholarship should be practical, used to ease the lives of the people and establish the nation properly. Therefore, transcending the limitation of Neo-Confucianism, which fixated on empty theory and formalism, he researched actual institutions and policies and sought new paths. His deepest concern was the people-centered philosophy. It is Silhak. He believed the foundation of the nation lay with the people, and the purpose of the politics was to ensure their comfort. He stated that the monarch was merely a being entrusted with responsibility by heaven. If they did not work for the people, there was no reason for them to remain in that position. This represented a critical reflection on traditional monarch-centered thought and revealed a people-centered political philosophy. This is 실학. Jeong Yakyong proposed several institutional reforms plans, the most representative being his theory of land system reform. At that time, Joseon society suffered greatly due to the tyranny of the land laws and unequal land distribution, making the people's lives extremely difficult. He advocated for a system where the people could evenly divide and possess land for farming. His ye전제, that is land reforms theory, involved villagers collectively dividing and cultivating land, sharing the harvest, while the ye전제 system proposed for land distribution based on specific criteria. This was an effort to establish an economic foundation enabling the people to live stably. Jeong Yakyong also emphasized the rule of law. He believes law should not be a tool wielded arbitrarily by those in power, but applied fairly to all. Through his works, including 경세유표, that is outline for governing the world, 목민심서, that is manual for governing the people, and the 흠흠신서, that is manual for punishing crimes. He systematically organized principles covering politics, administration, punishment, and the judicial systems. 목민심서 explained the duties local officials must uphold and how to care for the people, while 흠흠신서 meticulously addressed the fairness of the punishment and trials. His writings were not merely scholarship but a practical guideline for implementation. He also left reflections on human nature, while Neo-Confucianism viewed human nature as inherently good. Jeong Yakyong believed humans are born with the potential for both good and evil. Therefore, he emphasized the crucial role of the education and the institutions. Good institutions nurture people's very virtuous hearts, while flawed institutions foster evil. This clearly demonstrates his practical scholarly attitude, which prioritized institutional reform over individual morality. Jeong Yakyong also maintained an open attitude toward religion and ideas. He took an interest in Western scholarship and the Catholic thought, encountering a new worldview through them. However, he did not engage in blind acceptance. Instead, he pondered how these ideas could be applied to our society. This shows his intent to synthesize Eastern and Western thought. Chapter 8. The Thought of Choe Jeu. Choe was a founder of Donghak, a new religion and ideology that emerged in the later Joseon. In the middle 19th century, he offered a new path to the people suffering under oppressions of oligarchic politics and foreign pressure. At that time, Joseon society was severely shaken by political corruption, economic exploitation, and foreign invasion, and the people were losing their will to live and their hope. In this context, Choe Jeu developed a philosophy embodying the dignity and the equality of the people, along with the hope for a new world. The most central tenet of his thought is 인내천. This means man is heaven, a teaching affirming that all humans are dignified and equal beings. At that time, Joseon society enforced strict discrimination based on the caste system between Yangban and the commoners and between men and the women. However, Choe Jeu asserted that everyone is a being who embodies heaven and therefore should be respected without discrimination. The independence ideology was not merely a religious declaration, it was an innovative thought that awakened oppressed people to their own agency. Another crucial teaching is Shichunju, meaning to serve heaven. It signifies serving and following the heaven that dwells within one's own heart rather than seeking a deity externally. Shichunju was a practical guideline urging people to realize their oneness with the heaven and to live by keeping their own heart upright. It emphasizes that every person inherently possesses a sacred value, offering greater comfort and strength to the common people of the time. Choe also proposed three reverences. These are reverence for heaven, reverence for the people, and reverence for all things. This signifies that humans, nature, and heaven must live in harmony with one another. Furthermore, he emphasized four moral practices: loyalty, faith, reverence, and righteousness, teaching the people to realize a moral life in their daily existence. When establishing Dongak, he did not pursue religion alone. The name Dongak itself carried the meaning of countering Western learning, Sohak, while preserving the identity of our land. However, this was not a simple rejection of Western civilization. He acknowledged that there were things to learn from Western thoughts, but rather than blindly following it, he sought to establish a new path suited to the realities of our society. Choe Jeu also foresaw great change in history and society. He saw the old order crumbling and a new world opening. He envisioned a world where all people were respected and the common folk were masters, embedding this realization within the ideology of Donghak. This belief later led to the Donghak uh, peasant movement, becoming the foundation for transforming Joseon society. Although Choe Jeu was executed in 1864 due to state persecution, his ideology was carried on by his disciples. Donghak evolved into Chondogyo, becoming the ideological root of the national movements and the social reform, the crucial turning point in Korean modern thought.